Hey everyone, Random Randy here. This is Vlogmas for December 20th, 2017. It's pretty late. It's about 5 o'clock right now. Killian just passed out a little bit ago. I tried to get him to take a nap earlier this afternoon. He wasn't having it. He was far too interested in being awake. So he ran around all afternoon, and then when Adam and Hunter were getting ready to leave the house, Killian ran in here. He came up to me and was all super fussy, and I'm trying to do some work on something that I'll talk about in a minute. And he was just really insistent about getting in my lap and mommy, pick up. Picked him up, put him in my lap. He fussed for a minute. No joke, he just passed right out. Just done. Passed out on my shoulder. I'm like, okay, must be the poor little guy was more tired than I thought he was. Whatever. So right now I am working on a stuffed critter for one of my nieces because my husband decided at the last minute that we were actually going to make presents for all of his family, even though we hadn't planned on doing that. So yeah, that's been fun. The past 3 days of not sleeping, trying to get things done. I ended up making something for my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law. Those things are ready to go. Did those yesterday. So since ACU uniforms are no longer the military standard, all of my husband's old uniforms are now essentially fabric waiting to be harvested and used for something else. So he wanted me to make aprons for his brother and his sister that can be used for grilling, cooking, whatever, really, honestly. So, and most of you know my last name already anyway, so I'm not really terribly worried about getting stocked. But yeah, this is, I mean, got a neck strap, got ties on the side. Actually took a panel from the back and added it onto the bottom to make it longer, and I will not show you the stitching on the back because even though this one isn't too terribly bad, it's still not the best. But at the last minute for a novelty thing, I think it will work just fine. This one's for my sister-in-law. She likes blue, but all I had was purple ribbon, and I think that'll be more than sufficient. And look, I got fancy. I even dovetailed the end of the ribbon. Yeah, that's right. I did that. So once I figured out the first one, the second one was a lot easier. But yeah. Aprons. So those are done. Got those done yesterday, so that's one less thing for me to worry about finishing. And Adam is making something for his dad. He actually went with Hunter to get the last of the things that he needs to get in order to finish that. I have this set of dishcloths / pot holders that I made. That will be going to my mother-in-law, Adam's mother. I have to finish the set for his dad. I still need to finish some stuff for my parents that I'm not going to talk about because I know my mom watches, so I'm not telling. But I finished this morning. All I had left was to stitch the face on. This is a teddy bear for one of my nieces. I have 3 nieces, and it's very strange to call them my nieces because, you know, they're Adam's family. I'm just not used to it, I guess, because we don't see them super often. But this is actually the Cuddle Me Crochet Bear. And this is, I followed the exact same pattern, but I did this with worsted weight yarn and a 3.5mm hook. And apparently they very much like pink stuff. So yeah, lots and lots of pink going on here. Let's see the cute little bear face. It's got a cute little button tail. So there's that. That one's done. The other one that I'm working on right now, which I'm probably just going to be working on as I'm talking, because I'm going to try and make this video a little bit longer, which means I'm probably just going to be talking your ear off because I'm essentially in the house by myself right now because Killian's asleep and Adam and Hunter are not here. So this is the start of it. This is the head. I'm also making the Cuddle Me monkey for one of my other nieces and my older niece. I'm thinking of doing a cowl for her because we're not really sure. She's 8, so she might still be into stuffed animals, she might not be. Like I said, we're on the other side of the country. We don't really know. We haven't seen them since we were back on the East Coast over 2 years ago now. So, yeah. As much as I would love to make something else for her, I'm not sure what she likes, so I'm just gonna go with a cowl. I'm gonna do probably the double-stranded, just the tube, like I did for the ones that I made before the show. That didn't end up selling, because, you know, that's just how things go sometimes. But I'm thinking of doing something that's pinkish, probably with the white glitter yarn stranded with it, just to give it some extra sparkle, something that'll make it stand out. I actually had Adam help me figure out what yarn I was going to use for this, because I had 4 or 5 different ones. I didn't want to make it with the same yarn I made this with, because even though their features will be different, they're the same pattern, so they'll be about the same size, and I want the girls to be able to tell them apart at a glance. My nieces, the oldest one is 8. The middle one is the same age as Hunter, I think few months older or younger, I can't remember which. And then my third niece is a month older than Killian, so we actually had our second rounds of kids fairly close together. So I've just got a couple more rows of this to finish. Aside from that, it's mostly just been, there hasn't really been much else other than trying to get this stuff done, and it's honestly kind of driving me insane. Because Adam's like, oh, well, could you do this? And I'm like, I can, but it's gonna be, you know, it's gonna take some doing. I mean, I could have found a more simple pattern, and I even looked at some smaller monkeys, because this is for the youngest. So I don't think she would be as bothered by it being smaller as the older one likely would. So I'm just working away on this. Got my handy bag of stuffing right next to me here. And actually I found one of the best things to do for traveling. I actually did this for when I was at the show so I could potentially put things together while I was there, which I did do. Have a gallon Ziploc bag, just stuff it as full as you can of fiberfill and take it with you instead of not knowing how much you need to lug around. And one bag of this completely packed left me with about a handful left after making this, so it's just right. Just right. I feel like I don't really have a lot to talk about today, which is kind of ridiculous. I've just got home and got everything reorganized after the show, and it seems like the days are going by too quickly, and by the same token, they're going way too slow at the same time. The weather's been kinda icky, so the boys are bored with being cooped up in the house. So Adam was hoping to take them out of the house so that I would get a little bit of a break to work on this without, as any of you with current or who have had small children before will understand, like, oh, I got 3 stitches done and the kids need me for an hour. And that makes it really, really difficult to get anything accomplished. So I am still fighting off illness to a degree. I still have kind of a scratchy throat. It comes and goes. Some days are better than others. Some days I don't feel sick at all, and other days like today just have 0 energy, no get up and go. Which is annoying, because after I do this, I have two washcloths to make so we can get all of this stuff in the mail tomorrow for Adam's family, and it will probably be there a little bit after Christmas, but we're on the other side of the country, so I don't think they're going to be too terribly bothered by it. They understand. And we've already got the presents for the boys have started flowing in, and I'm rapidly running out of space to hide them. So right now there are 2 boxes of things that are sitting in our second exterior front door sitting behind it, stacked up, because there's nowhere else to really hide it. Our closets are all full. All of the space that I had in the craft closet that I was putting presents in is now already full, so we're running out of space. And it looks like the Amazon wish list that I made with stuff for the boys, which was full of mostly books, some movies, some art stuff, is pretty much tapped out. I'm gonna have to think really long and hard and add some more stuff to it. I wasn't expecting as much of it to get cleared out as did, which is good. I am completely grateful for that, because we were worried about having kind of a slim Christmas for the kids this year, because we're trying to get a lot of things in order and we're trying to minimize unnecessary spending. And as much as a lot of people feel like you need to have a huge, big, ginormous production for Christmas, I'd rather have a few things that are meaningful that I know I would have wanted than to have a bunch of tchotchke stuff. Like, for instance, I think we told just about everybody not to get our kids too many toys, because we have tons of toys. We don't like getting them weird electronic, attention fragmenting, beeping, loud noise toys. So I'm sure there'll be a few, but I don't think we will be as inundated with them as we were last year. There are actually some presents that the kids got last year that they played with once, and I put them back in the box and it's been in their closet ever since. So now that the boys are a little bit older, I think they'd appreciate them a bit more once we purge some more of their other toys. With the kids' toys, we do a toy rotation where whenever I remember to do it, usually every few months, once I notice that the kids aren't really playing with the toys they have out anymore, they just kind of dump them and there's only a few that they play with. And then everything's all over the floor and mommy steps on Legos, and that doesn't end well for anybody involved. So we go through and we have a cabinet that's in the living room, but we keep it closed so that the kids don't get into it and just throw more things all over the place. But we take the toys that aren't being used and store them in there. And every couple months bring them out. If it seems like the kids totally aren't interested, then they get donated or given away to somebody else. And that, it helps minimize the amount of stuff that gets thrown all over the floor. But we also do a toy purge every 6-ish months, usually coinciding just before Christmas and birthdays. Because Killian's birthday is November, then Christmas is December, Hunter's birthday is in January. So usually we have a summer purge and a pre-holiday gift receiving season purge that we do. Because, unfortunately, a lot of the toys that the kids get aren't something that will have the shelf life to be passed on to, say, their children. Now, if it's something that's a handmade toy or gift from people, I just keep them in those Space Saver vacuum bags, and I have a bin that has blankets and stuff like that from when I was little. And the boys actually even have a few of the toys that were knitted toys that my mom made for me when I was little. I had this big, it looks like a brachiosaurus and it's green, but I think it was supposed to be a dinosaur, but once I discovered things about the Loch Ness Monster, I decided to name it Nessie. So the boys still have Nessie and they play with her. The scarf has long since been lost to who knows where. But I mean, that thing's made out of acrylic yarn, and acrylic yarn will be one of the last things existing when nothing is left but cockroaches. So every time people complain about acrylic yarn, I have to laugh, because I know that things made with acrylic yarn stand the test of time. and my kids having a toy that my mother made for me when I was small some 20 plus years ago. That kind of staying power is what I want when I make things. Like, don't get me wrong, natural fibers are great. They are magnificent and wonderful, and I understand why some people like how soft they are, but as far as things for toys for kids, I want to be able to throw it in the washing machine and not have it fall apart. I want it to be able to be washed at least once a week, because if these toys are anything like Killian's bear, they will get grungy, they will eat with the children, they will play in the mud with the children, they will get accidentally dropped into puddles by the children. So yeah, it needs to be able to stand up to a lot of abuse, and something made from merino wool just isn't gonna hold up like that. You can try and argue with me about it. I have yet to see any evidence that would prove to me that something made out of material like that, unless it's reinforced with something like nylon, would be able to put up with that sort of abuse. Now for the fun part. Weaving in ends. And this is something that I know everybody hates to do, but I almost enjoy it just because I know that the extra care I take doing it means that the products that I make are going to hold up to washing and all sorts of other abuse. I've seen really, really devastating pictures in some of the Facebook groups I'm in from people who have taken, obviously, hours upon hours, days worth of hours of time making blankets. Granny squares, usually. You know, they start out with a magic ring. Well, if you don't properly weave in your ends with a magic ring and it gets washed, it's gonna unravel from the center out, and I can't imagine spending as much time as I do spend on making things like this only to have it get washed once and have it fall apart. That would be tragic and horrible. That would be so, so sad. So this, as I said, is going to be for my youngest niece. And hopefully she'll like it. Adam asked his brother what colors the girls liked, and apparently all three of them like pink, and I was like, well, I don't want to do just plain, solid pink. Who wants that? Nobody wants that. That is boring. So I went through everything I had that had pink in it and held them all up and said, hey Adam, which one do you think would be the best one? So aside from this is Red Heart Super Saver pink tones, by the way. And as you can see, there's a lot of different shades going on. And I like that, but it's subtle. It's not blocky like a lot of the variegated yarns could be. So I ended up settling for this one with Cupcake Confetti. It's a Big Twist Sincerely yarn. Because all the other pinks that I had were either super neon, or the other one that I was leaning towards was Deborah Norville Everyday Yarn in Parfait. It's a pink, black, white, gray yarn. It's very similar to Lava if you were to just replace the red with pink instead. And he thought that the black would make it too ominous for a little girl. And I'm like, well, yeah, maybe in your family, but I would have loved a stuffed animal that had black in it that way when I was a kid if somebody made one for me. But I also acknowledge that I am not the typical or average little girl when it comes to tastes. I don't think that most small children were reading William Blake and Robert Frost and Edgar Allan Poe before they were 10 years old. But I am who I am, as weird as that may be sometimes. Alright, so finally got the head done. Now I have to make ears, inside portions for the ears, arms, legs, and then the way that the Cuddle Me amigurumis go together is that you make the first leg, fasten off, you make the second leg, and then you attach it to the first leg, and then you just start going in rounds, around and around and around, and that makes your body, and then you attach the head. I really like the way that it turned out, the first one. It's a construction style that I've kind of had an inkling about before, but I've never actually made one that way before, so it was pretty cool to get to see how it turned out. So there is the start of the monkey head. I don't know how well you'll be able to see the colors right now because it's late. The light in here is crap, but Cupcake Confetti is a speckled yarn, which is pretty awesome because you don't usually find speckled yarns outside of hand-dyed yarns. So having something like this from a big box store, pretty awesome. I wish there were more color varieties. There's a few, but not nearly as many as I would like. So the head is done, and I have been rambling for about 20 minutes now. So I am going to cut this here, work on getting it edited as I'm making little bits and pieces to put the monkey together. And hopefully I will get to check in with you guys tomorrow. Everything should be a little more chill tomorrow after we've got all of this crazy making frenzy of stuff done. And I hope you're all having a good week so far. I hope the weather's all right where you are. And I will catch all of you guys probably tomorrow. So have a good night, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.